Bum, bum, bum. All right, we're good to go. Okay, so hopefully I started on time this week. Let me see. So let me just double check. We public live. All right, guys, welcome to the 37th Ask Me Anything live stream. If you missed a live broadcast of the stream, I try to host a live stream every 2 weeks, and the next one should be, we'll say, November 26th, noon standard, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. If you're new to the channel or you're new to the stream, my name is Derek. I produce generally self-improvement type content, whether that's on my podcast, regular videos, shorts, and this live stream. And it's been a project that I've been working on for the past couple of years. So if you're new to the channel, new to the stream, welcome. I'm glad to have you here, as this is sort of like the space where I like to just have open discussions on topics and also give you guys an opportunity to ask me any questions you have, whether that's in your own life or related to my content or anything that's going on in the world. Yo, Kevin, what's up, bro? How you doing? How's school? Also, thanks for reaching out, dude. It'll be awesome to have you on the podcast. It's surprisingly I'm pretty sure the podcast is one of the most difficult things that I do now. Just the fact that I'm having issues getting guests, which you would think wouldn't be that big of a deal, because I do reach out to anyone, basically, whoever's just interested in having a conversation, because I'm not really set on just being stuck in the self-improvement niche, but I'm always interested in talking about various subjects, right? And so I always have these open invitations to not just YouTubers, but other creators. And more often than not, I struggle to have anyone show up. So, hey, Martin, what's up, dude? What's going on, guys? Thanks for stopping by. How's the weekend going? You hate school? Oh man, I can relate to that. Yeah, school is I always had a love-hate relationship with school. I'm someone who's very pro education, obviously, with the whole self-development stuff and learning and just becoming a more competent and smarter human being, right? But also the way our education system is, it's kind of tough to do that. And I'm someone who obviously struggled. I struggled not through high school, but through university, post-secondary, and college. It was something that I just didn't like at all. It would have to be sometime next year because exams and stuff. Yeah, man, no worries. Whenever you're free, just hit me up. There's also for anyone that's watching this stream, and if you have any interest in just being on a podcast, for example, and just talking about anything, that's sort of what my podcast is. I tend to reach out to a lot of other YouTube creators because it also gives me an avenue to where I can promote other people's work that I think are good. And hopefully, long term, I don't really have any goals right now with the podcast. It's sort of like a 5-year project that I've set for myself, where I just want to do the podcast with no expectations. So there's none of that let down, right? Where I'm not achieving my goals. Whereas on the business sense for the YouTube channel, I have a lot of goals, right? Whether that's subscriber goals, monetary goals, production quality goals, and also just becoming a better speaker and content creator. So I have a lot of goals there. But the podcast is something no expectations for growth for at least 5 years. And it's just a small project that I want to just keep doing on the side, just planting that seed and watering it every day and hopefully slowly getting better at it. High school was easy. I cheated all my 4 years. Oh, dude. Yeah, high school was pretty easy. I got by. My grades in high school were super weird. I'd have like an average of 70, I think, mid 70s, but none of my grades were in the 70s. My grades were like in the high, like in the 90s for the maths and sciences, and then all the other courses like English and geography and all that type of stuff, it was like in the 50s. So I had like this very strange transcript when it came to high school. I'd love to come on. I usually have a few free hours every day. Hey, Martin, let's go, bro. Let's go. Let's hook it up. It's you know what too? It's like something about podcasting. I really enjoy just having like a good conversation for like. I try to aim for like an hour roughly, because at least it gives me the chance to try to figure out, what your beliefs are on a certain topic or subject, and it gives me time, or gives us time, to kind of like go through in depth with concepts and ideas that we believe in, right? It's not quite on the Joe Rogan level where he does 3 hours. I feel like that's a little bit too excessive, but again, he does do it in person, which is super cool, and that's something that I would love to do. Like this YouTube studio thing that I'm building here. To my right, you can't see it off camera over here, there's like another perpendicular table, I guess you would say. It makes like an L shape. So I have another table right beside me, and I'm slowly building that out into a podcast studio. And eventually, like I said, like I have this 5-year plan where I want to slowly build up the podcast, and then eventually shift over into more live podcasts when I have the money for it, or maybe I have the success or the time or whatever. And I have the first step is we got the Zoom pod track. So this will be the device where I'll hook in all my microphones and record the live pod. Don't have any microphones yet for this, so like I said, it's definitely a work in progress. But yeah, Martin, reach out, bro. Let's hook it up if you ever want to have a conversation. Yo, Derek, I turn 18 tomorrow. Yo, happy birthday, bro. Happy birthday. So tomorrow as in November 13th? Yeah, my birthday was last week. We're both born in November, dude. Except that you are 20 years younger than me. Oh man, that sounds kind of depressing when I put it like that. It's interesting how fast the years go by, especially for me. Like in my late 20s and early 30s, like time has just flown by. It's super interesting. But yeah, Kevin, happy birthday. And I'm kind of sad. Why are you sad, bro? Why are you sad? Should be a fun day, turning 18. Depending on where you live, you would be considered a legal adult. Right, you can legally make your own type of decisions. Again, that varies, right, depending on what part of the country or what country you do live in. So I think in Canada, everything is like pretty much 18, I think. Or is it 19? I know that we can drink, like buy alcohol earlier than you can in the US. US is 21? I think US is 21, right? Thanks. My childhood is over. Oh, don't think of it like that, dude. There's times where like I'm still a child at heart. Like even in my 30s, I still do childish things. But in one sense, your childhood sort of is over, because now that you're becoming an adult, you're finishing high school, you're probably going into post-secondary, college, university, or maybe you're entering the workforce and getting a job. So now there's like the responsibilities will add up. So in a sense, your childhood will dissipate over time. But it doesn't mean you still can't have fun and do those childish things that you love to do. Like for myself, it's like basketball, StarCraft. These are like two hobbies of mine in my early teens that I just I loved. Like I I had a passion for playing StarCraft. I had a passion for playing basketball. And even to this day, like I'm 38 right now. And, there's still days where, I like to watch the basketball game when I can, maybe go play some basketball outside in the summer. And then there's times where I might be eating lunch by myself and I'll watch like a replay of some professional StarCraft player. So there are these childhood memories that I have from my youth that they'll stay with you later in life, right? And it will remind you of the good memories you had in your childhood. And it's kind of interesting because I sort of hold on to those moments because on a day-to-day basis, I'm like a super serious person, right? I'm into this whole productivity stuff, accountability, discipline, just trying to be someone that sets a positive example, not only for my family and kids, but for like the viewers of this channel, right? Trying to make a difference, trying to do positive things in the world. And so in that sense, like I take my life very seriously. But also, you're going to need those times where you can chill out and reminisce on the good times in your youth, right? So I think both of those things are equally important. So I understand why, you might be sad, you got to grow up, right? But we all have to grow up eventually. But the transition, it does get easier as you gracefully age through life. Like I remember when I was 19, turning 20, all the responsibilities became like apparent to me that, I couldn't just screw around anymore on the weekends. I couldn't just, watch movies or go to the mall with my friends or play video games for like 10 hours. Like I couldn't do that type of stuff anymore. Now you have like rent, you have bills, you have student loans or whatever you have in your life, right? And so there's this level of anxiety that you get as an early adolescent. And this is something that I didn't even know this was a thing, but this is what sort of I went through. And over time, as you mature, that anxiety lessens and it becomes easier to overcome. Thoughts on, I know this guy. I can never pronounce his name. Is it Iman Gadzhi? He's like that entrepreneur guy, right? Hamza's friend. So to be perfectly honest, I'm pretty sure I'm subscribed to his channel. Let me just double check. Where to go? Subscriptions. I just want to make sure I am subscribed, right? I don't want to... Yeah, okay, so I am subscribed. Okay, so I've watched some of his content, specifically about business, I guess you would say, because he's an extremely successful entrepreneur. And recently he's sort of been posting about how to become a top 1% man, which I find very interesting as well. It's sort of like a topic that Chris from First Man and Hamza, they kind of talk about. It's not in my wheelhouse per se. Like that type of thing is something that I don't really focus on because like the type of self-improvement that I'm in, it's sort of gender neutral, right? I don't really think about the male perspective or the female perspective too much. It doesn't really come into play for me. Whereas, those guys, they're trying to reach an audience of young men, right? They're trying to be very supportive of young men. And, which is something I am supportive of too, but I'm also supportive of young women too, for example. So I don't really make I don't really distinguish between like gender, I guess you would say. But anyways, I remember listening to his story about how he grew up with his mom and, they went through all these struggles, and he's like a super young dude. I think he's in his early 20s. And one of the things that I really, what's the word am I looking for? It's not appreciate. Respect, I guess. The one thing I really respect about him is this idea he has about going monk mode, where he'll take months at a time out of his life to enter this like phase or state that he likes to call monk mode, where he stays extremely focused, extremely disciplined. He shuts off all types of instant gratification, whether that's TikTok, Instagram, social media, Netflix, video games. Like he cuts all of that out, right? And then he really focuses in on exercising, getting good sleep, waking up early, eating healthy, and then just like putting in work into his business and having that like extreme level of focus. And then after that, he'll go through these periods, you know, where he'll party, he'll enjoy himself and do a whole bunch of fun things, which is cool, right? But I really respected that concept of having like a monk mode. Like he had a gear where he could push it into high gear and, you know, really bunker down and focus on something. And if he had like a goal, whether that's business wise or YouTube wise, or maybe trying to get some type of client, because I know he does these live sale calls, and he has this like ability to be extremely disciplined. And I found that super interesting because the way that I always thought about discipline was like, it was sort of like a daily habit that you should build up, and you should be like consistent with discipline. Like it should be like an everyday thing. Whereas him, he sort of like takes it to the extreme where he'll sprint, he'll stop, he'll reassess, and then he'll rest and party and relax himself. And then he'll go in these like cycles, I guess you would say. So like I said, I wish I watched more of his content. I probably should. But I definitely like that guy. I think what he's doing is great. His information and his perspective for someone of his age is extremely impressive. Like when I was his age, I knew nothing. Like I was such an idiot. Like when I was in my early 20s, like I had no motivational or inspirational advice for anybody, right? I had nothing to offer to the world at that age. I guess you would consider myself as a late bloomer, as someone who kind of matured and progressed later in life. And that's perfectly fine too. But also I think, you know, it's important to recognize these young guys, these young creators who are really making an impact and making like a difference in the world. And this is sort of like why I have a lot of respect for guys like Hamza and Iman. It's just, you know, like watching it from afar from my position, it's really impressive what these guys have been able to accomplish. So yeah, maybe well, he hit 1 million subscribers, so there you go. So he's doing great. He actually has, let's see, so he has a video coming out on Monday about the economy. So yeah, I really enjoyed his business stuff. Yeah, and like this video too, he has one here called Monk Mode, What It Takes to Win. That was one of the videos that I really enjoyed. I think for you guys, he's a great creator to watch and listen to, and because there's this sort of type of inspiration you can get where you realize that you guys are probably closer in age to him, right? And so that's someone that you can sort of like relate to. And I think that's really good especially for young people, is to have like a role model, right? A role model to look up to. You might not have to like copy them per se, but you can take little tidbits of information from how they live their life and sort of like apply it to your own life, right? And sort of that's like how role models and having heroes work. It's like you look up to them. They inspire you, right? And then hopefully some of the takeaways you can, you know, take from their experience can benefit your own life. So, but yes, like I said, really enjoyed his content, his perspective, especially for someone at such a young age. Yo, Batiste, what's up, Batiste? What's going on, my brother? How's work? How's school? How's the Krav Maga? Are you a beast yet? How's the bench press, bro? What's going on, Batiste? Always love hearing from you, dude. Your thoughts on the Tate Brothers? Oh, mic muted. Is my mic muted? Oh, I'm good. Okay. Kevin, you trying to get me canceled, bro? We're gonna talk about Andrew Tate. What's his brother's name? Christian? Is it Christian? I don't want to talk about them and get their names wrong. I feel like it's Christian Tate. Is it? Oh, Tristan. See, I got it wrong. Tristan Tate, that was it. So Andrew and Tristan Tate. I made a video about Andrew Tate once. It's no longer on my channel because I unlisted a bunch of videos that sort of didn't really fit into the main message that I wanted to promote on the channel. And I removed a bunch of videos where I was critical of other people. Not just because there was some like negative comments I had, but I don't really want to have like any like negative energy on my channel. And so I had a couple of videos about Ice Cold JT and Hamza and Sneeko and Andrew Tate, where I was sort of talking about things that I agree with, things that I disagree with. And it's sort of like, I didn't want like any of those negative vibes on my channel, even though there were like beliefs that I had. So there was one day, I think it was last week, where I took a deep dive look at my channel, and then I unlisted a bunch of videos. And I actually made them member only. So they are available for members if whoever wants to join that. But, you know, they're still there. And I sort of wanted to just have content on my channel that's really focused on positivity and really focused on ideas that can help people. And it was a tough decision to make, because whenever you make a video criticizing another person, like if you talk about Hamza or talk about Andrew Tate or any of these guys, right, it generates a tremendous amount of eyeballs and views. Like a couple of those videos that I had, they're getting tons of views, right? Just because I said something controversial about one of these guys. And so like as a creator, it was hard to unlist them, right? Because I was like, oh man, these are getting views. Like, should I really remove these from my channel? But like, because it didn't fit in with the main narrative that I want to promote, then I eventually took them down, even though they were getting like a good amount of views. Because at the end of the day, like the views is not what I care about. Like the message is more important for me. But yeah, so we can get into the whole Andrew and Tristan Tate opinion, but let's give it a sec here. I just want to see what Batiste has to say. Doing really good, not too much because my spotter is not in town. Oh, bro, where's your spotter at? Can you get a random spotter at the gym? Random spotters are pretty bad though, to be perfectly honest. But I reached 330-pound deadlift. Hey, congrats, bro. That's PR. Krav Maga is going right, and work is really exhausting because it is almost Christmas. Yeah, man, the holiday season is for my day job too. Christmas, we call it peak season. It's like, because like I'm in logistics, right? And like what happens during Christmas, like people need to transport gifts, right? Shipping, receiving, all that type of stuff. So I'm feeling it too. Christmas is like a crazy time for me at my day job, but it sounds like you're still doing the right things, Batiste. Keep up the gym training, weightlifting, the MMA stuff. I love it, bro. I love it. Yeah, bro, just ask a random dude to spot you. Yeah, see, that's what I had to do because I didn't have a gym partner when I went to the gym pre-COVID. I'd always just like ask random people. But you know who I would ask? I'd always ask people that were like super jacked. Because what's funny about the gym is like whenever you see someone at the gym who is like super serious, like either they're like super jacked or they're super strong, or they're taking their workout like really seriously, a lot of the times those type of people are intimidating to talk to, I guess you would say. However, those are the type of people where I've had the most interesting conversations with because they obviously have like a passion for fitness, right? And whenever I got into these like water cooler type conversations with these guys at the gym, they would always have like a plethora of information about like their macro split or their workout routine or their nutrition or their supplements, like those type of guys. Like I loved talking to and love interacting. And those are the type of people I would ask for a spot. Like when I was doing bench press, for example, I'd ask those guys for a spot, and then you would kind of like get into like this, like this little conversation of, oh, like what are you working on? Are you doing chest? I'm like, oh no, I'm doing like an upper lower split. Today's my lower day. I did strength yesterday. Today's hypertrophy. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I love having those conversations with people who are obsessed. And more often than not, those guys are more than willing to help you. Like, of course, you're going to have like an asshole every once in a while who's like pissed off and they just want to like get their workout in. They don't want you to bother them. Like, sure, like that happens too. But I found that at my local gym, I always loved asking the dudes that were jacked for a spot because not only could they help me lift the weight when it got stuck on my chest, but they could also be like, oh, you don't have enough scapular retraction when you're pressing the weight. You need to arch your back more. Or they would help with like my form or give you like these like pointers or tips, because this is obviously a world that these guys are obsessed with, right? So if there's anyone that feels timid or shy when they're at the gym for asking help from other people, I highly, highly recommend doing it, because I've had so many positive experiences in the past with, I guess you would call them gym bros, like those type of guys. I know they're easy to poke fun of, but I've had like great interactions, like just amazing interactions with people like that. Oh, and I totally forgot, I was supposed to send you a message about my plan for what I want to do after my studies. Oh, that's interesting. Send it over, bro. Let me know what the plan is. I love planning. I'm huge on planning. Planning is something that I think is extremely important, right? Writing down a plan, having a goal, like what you want to achieve, where you want to be. And it's not like that cliche question you get from corporations. Oh, where do you want to be in 5 years? Like, sure. Okay, it's good to have a 5-year plan too, right? But do you have like weekly goals, monthly goals, daily goals, yearly goals? Do you have relationship goals, health goals, fitness goals, right? Like what's the plan? Like everyone gets stuck on this idea of like, oh, what's your 5-year plan? Like I have a 5-year plan. It's the podcast. Hopefully in 5 years it will grow. But aside from that, I have like daily goals for health, exercise, nutrition, my relationships, right? I have weekly goals for my business, for this content creation stuff. I have monthly goals for the type of videos I release. Are they engaging? Am I improving? Am I adding value to the viewers, right? Like it's very important to not just drift through life, right? Because this is something that I did for many, many years. I never would stop, consider, and contemplate what I was doing. What was I working towards? Was there a purpose? Do I have a passion? Is there something I'm trying to achieve? Like there wasn't any structure in my life before, and I would sort of just go with the flow and exist and kind of bounce around and just react to things. And that's where you sort of get stuck, right? Because you end up going nowhere. But when you have like a clear plan, a clear direction, a clear goal, you have something you can work towards. And you can like develop that razor sharp focus and figure, okay, what do I need to do to, say, lose some weight, right? And you can really break it down and devise a plan that will set you up, like it will set up your future for better days. Like it's just so important. And it's one that I sort of wished I found earlier. Like I'm thankful that I found it now, right? But I'm like in my late 30s. I'd be even like, where would I be now if I found this stuff out when I was 18? Like Kevin, right? Like who knows? Book recommendations. So judging by the title of this live stream and the thumbnail, I recently got this book, Skin in the Game, by one of my favorite authors, honestly, Nassim Taleb. He is a brilliant man, almost to a point where he's too smart for his own good. And like I've read this book before, and I struggled to read it, and I struggled to comprehend his writings because it's like he's too smart. He writes too well. He's almost like arrogant in the sense where the type of words he uses, it's a little overly complicated for no reason. However, I really wanted to talk about this book because there is so many amazing ideas in here, and that's what I'm searching for when I read books. I read books in a very strange way. I don't know if we've ever talked about this before, but I go through books very quickly on a daily basis with my Kindle and audiobooks. Now you can get audiobooks from Audible or the internet and even Spotify. Like Spotify has a bunch of audiobooks. And so what I do is I go through audiobooks really quickly while I'm at work. And then when I take like my lunch break or whatever at work, I'm on my Kindle. I'm just like searching through books, like looking for really good ideas. And when I come across a book that I find is exceptional, that's when I'll buy it. That's when I'll like buy the physical copy. And I don't know if I have like a reading comprehension issue, but whenever I read a book, I can never recall everything that I've read. Like I struggle to recall information for some strange reason. So I never read books for completion. I always read books and I have like a highlighter, and like all my books are mangled. It's just full of me writing in them, highlighting things. And I hardly ever read a book front to back. I'm usually like going through it, trying to find that like paragraph that I highlighted from before, and I would read it and reread it and really try to understand that concept or idea. And that's sort of like how I benefit from books. Whereas, I might read Skin in the Game. I can't recall anything, but there might be like 10 really key points in here that like blew my mind, where I had that epiphany or light bulb moment, and I highlight them and I'll go back to them like, oh yeah, this idea about politics and liberals and conservatives, or like this idea about anti-fragilism. Like it's just, that's sort of like my benefit when it comes to books. Reading books is overrated. Yo, what's up, John? My favorite vegan. What's up, bro? How you doing? Books are boring? Oh, I remember John had a great book recommendation for me. Sapiens by I'm gonna butcher this guy's name. Is it Yuval Harari or something like that? I can't remember, but yeah, John, you remember you recommended me that book once. I read it, and that was a super great read. I've been thinking about maybe I'll pick that book up, but the problem is it's just so long. I don't know how I'm going to have the time to go through that beast again. But any other book recommendations? What else did I get recently? I got Skin in the Game. Oh yeah, I picked up, oh my gosh, it's red. The book is all red. What's his name? The author from New York. Malcolm Gladwell. Outliers. Yeah, that was it. Outliers. That was super interesting book. Highly recommend pretty much anything Malcolm Gladwell. I really enjoy his writing, his work. But for whatever reason, Outliers was something that really resonated with me. So I got that as well. Let's see what's going on here. All right, I got to catch up on the chat. Baptiste, I have the feeling that there was a part of my life where I was just a spectator of my own life. I finally learned that a man is the sum of his actions and must use my time the best way possible. You were just a spectator of your own life. That's sort of like when you go through the flow. You're just like living your life and reacting. You're not really like working towards anything. And you end up just being, again, like you said, a spectator, right? I can relate to that. Have you heard about a book named The House of Leaves? I am currently reading it. It's a fiction, but damn, reading it is like wandering in a maze. House of Leaves? No. Let me save that in a Google tab. House of Leaves. House of Leaves. Mark Danielewski? Okay, I'll check it out later, Baptiste. Yes, sir. They are making a graphic novel interpretation. Oh, really? Of Sapiens? You know what's interesting about Sapiens? Like the topic of the book, it's something that like I'd have no interest in. Like I don't care about the evolution and history of the human species. I'm like, why would I care about that? Like it seems so trivial to me. But then there's been so much praise about the book. I received so many recommendations and people talking about it. I'm, okay, this has to be a good book. And even though like the topic didn't really interest me that much, but the book was it was so well done that I couldn't put it down. And it was definitely a great read. But I don't know what I'm gonna do with that though. Like maybe is there an audio book? Maybe rereading it or listening to it a second time would be beneficial. But yeah, there's always books that surprise me that kind of come out of nowhere and you think that you wouldn't like it and then just like you love it. Should I continue to take cold showers? Winter is approaching. I do it. I think it's like taking cold showers in the summer. It's kind of easy, especially if you've been outside and you're all hot and you're sweating. Like jumping in a cold shower is no problem. But especially like here where I live in Canada, like our winters are cold. They're really cold. And I think that's where you get the best benefit, right? Because that's when the cold showers become the most uncomfortable, right? Because in the winter, you're wearing what? You're wearing socks, long pants. You probably have a sweater on, right? Because it's cold. And then you're going to take those clothes off and take a cold shower. Like, ew, that's tough, right? But I think I think the benefit comes from doing the difficult thing. Like cold showers aren't some magical remedy that just improves your life, right? And I feel like there's a lot of bullshit like that in the self-improvement world. Like, oh, do this thing and it'll change your life. And I'm guilty of that too with some of like my videos and titles where I kind of use that description. Oh, this will change your life. But I feel like the thing that changes your life is just doing the difficult task. And that's it. Like that is like the most important thing. And so just jumping in the cold shower when it's cold and you're shivering and your teeth are chattering and you're like almost hyperventilating, but once you come out of there and you overcome that, uncomfort, or you've overcome that like cold temperature, like you feel good, right? It's the same thing, when you exercise. It's the same thing when you eat like a healthy lunch or a healthy meal, right? Like you feel good. But if you go and you eat McDonald's, you feel like shit. You stay up all night playing Call of Duty, and by the time you go to bed, you feel like shit. right? It's doing the difficult thing. That is what's important. I think then that's where the benefit comes from. So winter is coming, but I would say definitely keep up with the cold showers. They are, but one of the biggest issues is trying to figure out pigmentation of the characters. Pigmentation of the characters. What does that mean? Pigmentation of the characters. I'm not smart enough, bro. Pigmentation. I don't have pigmentation. Pigmentation. Oh, it means coloring. Skin pigmentation. Oh, skin pigmentation. You're too smart for me, John. I had to Google the word pigmentation. Skin color of the... Oh. Yikes. Is that because it's like a race thing? Like a sensitive diversity inclusion thing? Man, that stuff, I don't know how I feel about that type of stuff. It's I find it so bizarre. Like this forced inclusion, I guess you would, like, I don't know how do you describe that? I don't know. I don't have like a well thought out opinion on that topic. Maybe I shouldn't talk about something that I know little of. Don't want to get canceled, right? Yeah, but that's super interesting. But yeah, what other books? What other books have I been reading? Wish I had my Kindle with me. I had a whole list, of stuff that I've been going through. Man, there was Michael Pollan. I've been reading a lot of Michael Pollan recently. That's sort of like in preparation for this whole psychedelic avenue that I'm sort of going down. That's going to be my next video too. I have a video coming out about microdosing psychedelics, so that's going to be interesting. It's not a sensitivity issue. It's more that he wants to be accurate with the visual representation. With text, he could be speculative and not worry about what it actually looks like. Oh, okay, I see. So he wants to be like correct. He wants to be accurate with the information. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, because that's the thing too. It's like accuracy. It's important, right, for a book like that. Like for something like Game of Thrones, not Game of Thrones. What's that new show? House of the Dragon, for example. Like all of a sudden you have this like Valerian house with like the white hair, and it's sort of like it doesn't align with the book, but that's just like it's like fantasy, right? So it doesn't really matter. But something like Sapiens, the accuracy, it's important for a book like that, right? To be historically correct. Is that the right term? To be historically correct. David Goggins' second book is coming out soon, or it may be out. Oh man, David Goggins' first book is amazing. The book, it has him wearing like his Navy SEAL outfit. What is it called? I've read it. Oh, Can't Hurt Me. Yeah, that's an amazing, amazing book. David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me. He also has an audiobook version of it where it was a really unique audiobook. It wasn't just him reading it word for word. It was sort of, he called it an audiobook podcast where they would read out the chapter. And then in between chapters, David and his publisher, I believe, they'd have like a mini podcast conversation. And they would talk about the chapter that they just read. And this was like stuff that wasn't in the book. So if you've read David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me, I highly recommend the audiobook because you get these like little insights into David's mind about like what was happening, what he was going through, especially the part where he was trying to break the world record for pull-ups, and just like the sheer mental duress that guy was under. Like his hands were like exploding. He had like blisters everywhere. His shoulders were shot, trying to do like thousands of push-ups in, I don't know what, like a 24-hour period or whatever. But that was like a super, super amazing book that I loved. Would you recommend anybody take psychedelics? Okay, so in the past, I had the belief that everyone should at least try it, because I feel like the benefits outweigh the very minor negatives. However, my perspective and my belief on that has sort of changed over time, because there's some people, like psychedelics just aren't for them, right? And there's also some people who are predisposed to psychosis type tendencies, to split personality tendencies. And so like psychedelics can exacerbate that, right? So I don't think psychedelics are for everybody. However, if you are someone that would like to try it, or is thinking about trying it, or who is interested in doing them, then I highly recommend doing it. If you are of the position where you have an open mind, where you're open to trying something that can give you an out-of-body experience, whether spiritually, mentally, or whatever you want to call it, if you are open to that, then I highly recommend giving it a shot, because the benefits that I've received on a personal level, and again, this is just anecdotal, right? This is based on my personal experience. There are so many benefits that I've received through microdosing and macrodosing psychedelic mushrooms, that not only has it made me a better person, a better father, a more compassionate human being, it's just opened my mind to new ideas and possibilities, and just like the way I think. Because before, I used to be super stubborn, right? I never used to care about other people's perspectives. I always thought people were stupid, and why should I care about what this guy says, and this is dumb, and that's like, I was always like that. I always just shot down other people's ideas. And that comes from the ego, right? That comes from your ego. And that's it's very difficult to overcome your ego, especially as a man, right? And going through ego death with psychedelics was something that was like life altering for me. It was really, it makes you confront your own bullshit. It makes you face your own flaws and your own biases, right? And I feel like it was so beneficial for me as a man, because it made me come face to face with my flaws, right? And it sort of like teaches you why you're wrong, right? It shows you your bullshit, and you have to come face to face with it, because there is no exit button during a psychedelic experience. You can't just like tap out. You can't walk away. Like once you go through it, you're in it, and then there's no escape, right? And so you're forced to confront those demons in your life. And it was so necessary for me. And so again, if you are open to trying it, or you are someone who is thinking about doing it, then yes, highly recommend. I highly recommend it. But if you're someone, that maybe you have like some type of split personality disorders in your past, or schizophrenia in your family, maybe stuff like that, it's probably not the best thing to try, right? So I think that would probably be my exception. I got to catch up on the comments. Yes, I want to read this book so bad, but there is no French translation yet. Oh, really? Oh, you're talking about House of Leaves, right? Dang, it was published in 2000, bro. 22 years ago. There's no French translation? That's tough. Your thoughts on feminism, like the extreme ones? Oh no. Yo, Kevin, you're trying to get me canceled, bro. Feminism and Andrew Tate? Oh, Batiste is laughing at you. Kevin is here for the drama. Oh man, that's funny. Hold on. Um, oh yeah, John has a good point there. Timothy Leary, preached set and setting. Yeah, I read that in Michael Pollan's book, the importance of set and setting. It's funny because they never knew what set and setting was, right? And how important that is in regards to psychedelics. Make sure you are in a safe place surrounded by love. Yeah, that's so important. And also having a sitter, right? If you've never done psychedelic mushrooms before, highly recommend getting a sitter, which is someone who stays with you that is sober, that can make sure you don't do anything crazy, like jump into the lake or run out into the road or something. Yeah. So back to the psychedelic thing. If you do try it, set and setting is something that's very important. Look that up, and also look into getting a sitter, friend, family member, someone that cares about your general well-being, right? The feminism thing is interesting. Because at a core level, like at a definition level of what a feminist is, like I could consider myself a feminist, right? Because I care about women's rights. I think it's important, women should be able to make choices, be able to vote, drive, all those type of things that is sort of suppressed in some other countries, which is kind of weird. So in that sense, I am, pro-feminist, just like I'm pro-masculine, right? I'm pro everyone, right? I feel like there should be an even playing field for everybody. The problem is sort of lies in your question when you're talking about the extreme ones. That's when it gets problematic, right? It's like this, that's when you get these arguments of the gender pay gap, right? Like women make 75 cents on the dollar of men, right? Women get paid less, women get less of this, women get less of that. And they're like pro women. And, you have like the Ghostbusters movie, which is like all women, and like that extreme type of stuff is one that I have a problem with because it's easily debunked, right? And I think Jordan Peterson has talked about this ad nauseum, especially like the gender pay gap, right? Like the 75 cents on the dollar, like men do all the terrible jobs, right? Like who takes out the trash? Who works in the sewers? Who does shingles on roofs? Who builds houses? Who builds skyscrapers? Like all the terrible jobs in the world. They pay well. Like you want to be a garbage man, like a dude that goes in the sewer, like going through shit and garbage and like that pays really well. The next time you have garbage day on your street, look at who the garbage people are. Generally, it's garbage men, right? It's generally men do these shitty jobs, right? And do these jobs that are very demanding physically, that are very dangerous, right? Like building a skyscraper. And so like they don't like to acknowledge that point, right? When it comes to the gender pay gap. And it's unfortunate, right? It's unfortunate. But I think where they have a point is if, they say, if you have like an accounting firm and you have two accountants of the same education, the man makes more than the woman. Okay, fine. If you want to argue that, sure. But coming from like an entrepreneurial standpoint, which is something that I'm in the entrepreneurial world. If you could truly pay women 75% wage, right, and get the same outcome, then wouldn't all entrepreneurs just hire women, right? Because then your bottom line would just be so much better. But that just doesn't happen, right? And so to get a better perspective on this, I highly recommend listening to Jordan Peterson's points on the whole extreme feminism, gender pay gap stuff. I think he has way better insight than I ever will. But again, I don't like the extremes. I don't like the extreme anything. Like I don't like extreme liberals or extreme conservatives, extreme left, extreme right, extreme feminine, extreme, like the extremes. Like why does it always have to go there? Why does it always have to be polarizing? Like that's when I have issues, right? And you'll find this everywhere in the world, right? whether it's Apple or Android, Xbox, PlayStation, left, right, red, blue. Like, you have these opposing extremes in everything in life, right? And, feminism is part of that extreme, right? The extreme sides that are just like, let's say, trust all women, right? Like that's a crazy statement, right? Just like saying trust all men, that's a crazy statement too, right? Like, it doesn't make any sense, right? So yeah, that's just my thoughts on that. A sitter would be ideal. I never did this, but after years of experience, I can attest to having a sitter being a good idea. Yeah, +1 to that. +1 to the sitter. Stay awesome, bro. I'm glad I got to catch you live for a moment. Hey, John, have a good day, brother. Keep doing your thing. I'll catch you in the next video. I think being surrounded by people who I think are complete idiots all day at school has given me a superiority complex and a big ego. As of right now, ego death seems like the way to go. Okay, so there's two things there. I completely relate to the part about being surrounded by complete idiots all day. And this is like you're finding this at school. And this does not get any better when you enter the corporate workforce. If anything, it gets worse. Like, when I entered into like an office job in the corporate world, you have people in an office on computers who don't know how to empty their recycling bin. And they're getting paid double the amount of money per hour than you are because they've been at the company 30 years. Like, that's the level of incompetence that you'll see in the workplace. And it's crazy. It is so crazy, right? And it's not, in a sense, it's not their fault, because they're probably like 55, they didn't really grow up with computers that much, right? So in one way, you can't really blame them. But if you're at a desk job where you're working at a computer all day and you don't know what the recycling bin is, like, it's a little bit embarrassing because, to use your definition, to work with stupid people all around you all day, it does give you a superiority complex where you feel superior than your peers and you develop an ego, right? And that will happen, because then also you're going to be like, why am I being compensated less by these people who are so much more inferior than I am? And it's going to drive you crazy. It's going to drive you nuts, right? Like, you'll experience this at school. You'll experience this in the workforce, and you'll experience this in public too. It's just part of life, right? But I think the key here is to be self-aware of that ego and not to let it spill over into your day-to-day life. And that's what sort of happened to me. I kind of felt like with computers, I was far superior than everybody, right? Because I was in my 20s. I knew how to use Word and Excel, Access, PowerPoint. I went to school for like programming. Like, I was very good with computers. I'm very tech savvy. I built my own computer, all that type of stuff, and I had people working with me that didn't know how to send an email. And that would drive me crazy, right? But then it would come home with me, and I would develop an ego in my personal life. I would develop an ego in my family life. And that's where it's not good. And that's where you need to halt it in your tracks. Because I feel like ego is something that it slowly ramps up on a day-to-day basis, right? It's like the more success you have, the better you feel about yourself, the more your ego gets inflated, right? And it's something that you have to check it at times. And that's why psychedelics for me was very beneficial, because you go through ego death, which is very scary. Like, if you've never experienced what true ego death is, and during like a psychedelic experience, it's very, very scary. It's very frightening. It's very difficult to overcome. Like, it's not an enjoyable experience at all. It is not. In the moment, it's terrifying. But once you come out of it, the perspective that you gain after the fact is miles beyond whatever pain and suffering you were going through in the moment. And that type of ego death, I don't think you can achieve through any other medium in life. Like, I feel like psychedelics is the only tangible thing in this world that can get you there. Again, I may be mistaken. Maybe there's like some form of meditation or deep breathing that could get you there. I don't know. I'm not very experienced in those aspects. But definitely when it comes to ego death and psychedelics, terrifying in the moment, but it will transcend your life after the fact in terms of the benefits. And it's one that I can attest to, one that I promote. And again, if you're open to that type of thing, I highly recommend giving it a try. It's so hard to put into words, right? It's so hard to explain this type of stuff. Like, I made a whole video about my heroic dose with psychedelics. I don't know if you guys haven't seen it. It's the video with a thumbnail of my face. Like, half of it is like in this room, and the other half is like this purple sky comet thing going off. So yeah, if you want a better visual representation of sort of what it's like, I highly recommend watching that video. My sister often says every girl is a feminist until the restaurant bill is here. Oh, that's a good one, Batiste. That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, that's see, that's the thing. That's a double standard, right? You preach to the masses that you want equality. You want equality. Want equality, but then when something like the restaurant bill comes up, you want that double standard where men have to pay, and all your beliefs about equality go out the window. And it's the same thing when it comes to like clubs, right? You go to a club, pretty girls want to get in for free, right? And you ask them, should ugly girls get in for free too? Should all women get in for free? Should guys get in for free? Well, no, just them. See, like you only want equality when it applies to topics that you care about, and when it applies to other things in your life where you benefit, then you don't want to talk about equality anymore, right? And so that's where like all those double standards come into play, and that's why I hate all that stuff, right? Like, I hate the whole like team X, team whatever, right? Name a team, right? I hate all that stuff. I find it like such a complete waste of time. It's I guess you would say it's a pet peeve of mine. I don't know. That's a good quote though. I like that quote. Every girl is a feminist until the restaurant bill is here. I've had several conversations with my mother on my personality and ego before. Just a little over a year ago, I had a tiny ego and it just inflated. Yeah, so ego is interesting because you also want to be confident, right? It's very beneficial to be confident in your abilities, right? But again, like catching that ego before it becomes too inflated, I think that's equally as important as well. It's like a tough thing to quantify, right? Like, how do you quantify the ego? Like, you can't really measure it. Like, how do you measure the ego, right? Like, you can't see it externally. You can't really see it internally. Your ego is only on an individual basis. Everyone knows where they're at, right? Like, I can't see it by, listening to you talk or looking at a picture of you. Like, you can't put it on a scale, right? It's unscalable. So dealing with your ego has to come from personal choice, right? It has to be something that you actively pursue, where be confident, be strong, right? Be confident in your abilities, in your intelligence, right? That's all very important stuff, right? But just don't let it spill over, right, into becoming like narcissism. Like that's when it can get a little tough, right? So yeah, it's a very tricky subject to tackle, right? The ego. It's very sticky. So I'm not sure how else to navigate it. Life isn't fair, but there's always double standards for men and women. But the difference is women want the benefits. Men want the benefits too, but most of the time they don't complain about it, like the extreme feminist. Yeah, like that's what it is. Like life isn't fair, right? It's what it is. Life isn't fair. Like if you are a 6'6", 250-pound dude, like you're gonna excel at all jobs that require physical activity, whether you like it or not. That's just a fact, right? That's just a fact, and you can't learn to be 6'6", right? That's something you're born with. It's genetics. It's the roll of the dice, the hand you're dealt, and that's just what it is. Like you could be someone that's born 5'6" and you have the most extreme knowledge about basketball. Every play, every type of defense setup, every type of offense, all the rules, like everything. You could be like obsessed. You could be the best basketball mind in the entire world. But if you're born 5'6", your opportunities to make it to like the NBA is like next to none. And that's not fair. Well, that's just what it is, right? Like again, life isn't fair. And so I think it's important, or this is what I believe is to be realistic, right? Like be realistic with all this type of stuff, right? And do men want the benefits? Do women want the benefits? Sure, of course, right? But it's the issue I have is when you don't look at both sides, right? Like what Batiste's sister says, right? You preach for equality, you preach for acceptance, you preach for all this stuff, but then when push comes to shove, you only want it when it benefits you, right? You don't want it when it benefits the other party. And that's unfortunately a sad part of our society, right? And the thing is, like, you're never going to be able to sway everyone, right? You're always going to have some extreme feminist person, just like you're always going to have like some extreme masculine asshole guy, right? You're always going to have both sides of that, right? So it just sucks when it like bleeds into our society and affects like laws and regulations and pay. Like that's when it kind of sucks, right? When you see it being forced upon us, right? And that's sort of like where I have an issue as well too. So yeah, it's tricky. We live in a tricky world now. Like when I was growing up in the 90s, like early 2000s, there was none of this, right? Everyone now is so sensitive when it comes to everything. Like it's crazy. Like even for myself, I can't talk about any of these ideas that we're talking about right now with like my coworkers or like family or at work. Like if I'm at work and you want to like have a conversation about like politics or beliefs or religion, like you can't have that conversation, right? Because people are just so damn sensitive and everyone just gets upset and everyone gets mad and it just ends up in like animosity and fighting and argumentation. Like you just can't have it, right? Like you can't have like calm discourse when it comes to a lot of these topics, right? And it's crazy. It drives me nuts because like, look right here, even in this stream, we're asking questions. I'm asking questions. We're talking about experiences. We're bringing up ideas, and it's good, right? It's good to have like an open dialogue with all this stuff without being afraid of someone screaming at you. right? And I think this is sort of why I love this stream. I love this stream. I love having these conversations with you guys, even though it's kind of awkward for me because I'm talking to a camera, right? But I love listening to the points you guys bring up. I love listening to your own life experiences or what you're going through or what you guys think, right? I love this type of stuff. And I think it's so important for us to, talk about different issues and different ideas and try to work out, what's the best way to think about things, right? And that doesn't mean that I'm always right. I'm definitely wrong on a lot of things, but just being open to being wrong, and letting go of your ego at times is so important. It's so important. I hate this mentality when you say, I do not agree with Team A. People are like, oh, so you're from Team B. Do you know that they do the same things? No shit, that is not what I mean. Yeah, it's again, like Batiste, it's like the team mentality, right? It's like you're seeing it right now in the United States with like the midterm elections, right? You see it with like Republicans and Democrats, Team A, Team B, right? Team blue versus Team red. And like there's that saying, blue no matter who, or red till I'm dead, right? And there's like this attachment to an ideology of a team where you are a Republican for life or you're a Democrat for life. And no matter what policy or what politician or what conversation comes up, you're on that team no matter what till you die. And it's like, I feel like that's a dangerous way to live your life, to get consumed by like team mentality, Team A, Team B, and not conforming to what's in the middle, right? And only agreeing with one side of the spectrum. Like there's no more, everything in life used to be like a pendulum, like a scale. Like those teeter-totters that you had as a kid? It's like a board, and then one kid would sit here and it would go down, and another kid would be here and it would go like this. Like that's how life should be, right? We should be left and right on some things. It should go up and down. It should sway. It should change. But you should be open to all points on that spectrum, right? And it's dangerous when you subscribe to only one idea or one ideology, right? And this is something I think like that Joe Rogan talks about a lot on this podcast. It's like being stuck in these like echo chambers, like when you join a Facebook group. Like I'm sure there's like extreme feminist Facebook groups where like there's hundreds of women in there and they're all supporting each other. And there's probably like another super pro extreme masculine Facebook group is all guys just supporting each other. And you know what I mean? Like that type of stuff. Echo chambers. It's not good. Yeah, I don't think it's good in any sense. I feel the same. Everybody is just super sensitive, but you're better than me, man. I just talk about it anyway. It has ended in crying a few times. Damn, Martin, you're a savage, bro. Martin's a straight savage, just out here slaying people. Oh man, dude, you're just making people cry, bro. You're just crushing dreams. It's hard, right? It's tough. Like it's tough to have like an objective conversation about topics that are controversial. Like why can't we have discussions like this anymore? Right? Like how come we can't? Everyone has to get their feelings hurt, and then the shouting and screaming and the tears come out. You know what I mean? Like it's, oh man, it's tough, dude. It's tough. But Martin's a beast. just out here just wrecking people. Oh, I love it. Internet sometimes feels like a peaceful campfire on a hiking trail. Ooh, a peaceful campfire on a hiking trail. You can meet very kind people who will be very happy to chat about anything. You have all these like, what do you call those? It's not foreshadowing. It's like analogies. You have all these like interesting descriptions of things, Batiste. It's like a peaceful campfire on a hiking trail. Wow. Yeah, see, like that also kind of ties back into set and setting, right? Like if you're out in nature in wilderness, it's a nice sunny day, you're going for a walk, you see some other random people going for a walk, you say hi, they say hi, everything is cordial, everyone's happy, everyone's polite. You know, in those type of situations, you can have like great conversations, right? But like when you're jammed inside a cubicle in an office, in the corporate 9 to 5, where everyone's on pins and needles and everyone has high anxiety and high stress, and everyone's trying to backstab each other to climb the corporate ladder, you know, there's no room for discourse there. And it's sad. It's really sad. Metaphor, that's it. Thanks, Batiste. I can't even. That's pathetic. I got the French man teaching me English vocabulary. Thank you, Batiste. See, like I mess up and I forget things all the time. But I've reached a point in my life, you know, when I'm wrong about something or I mess up, I can admit it and I can laugh at it. I find it funny, and I have no issues with, you know, admitting when I'm wrong or, you know, finding something else just like that, for example. That's what I love. That's what I love, is learning, right? Being a lifelong learner, always trying to better myself, always trying to improve, always open to new perspectives and ideas, right? And never being closed-minded and never joining a team, right? That's why I love this stuff. It is for moments like that, right? Like really simple moments like that, where a dude, you know, halfway around the world who speaks a different language than me can teach me something in English that I couldn't remember. I love it. It would be a metaphor if he didn't say Leica. Leica. Smile? There's so much degenerates in college, and like on my floor of my dorm, there are always random parties and stuff till like 5 a.m. Oh, dude. Yeah, that's tough, Kev. See, college is a tough thing, right? Because some people are there to get an education, some people are there to just party, and some people are there because they're forced to go because of their parents, right? Yeah, college is tricky. But also, like, it's tough though. It's like, also in college, you're talking about people who are still very young, right? You guys are still like developing. You guys are still learning about life and how the world works, right? It's tough because, you know, some people that are like 18, 19, they just want to party. They can have, you know, be up until 5 a.m, you know, living life. It happens, right? It's sort of like part of life. Because also, when you're older, you can't really do that stuff, right? When you have a day job or you have responsibilities, you can't really be up partying until 5 a.m. in the morning anymore. So, you know, I get it. Some people want to live their life when they're young. You know, they want to experience life to the fullest. So it's sort of like what it is, right? But it's a pain in the ass if you're like trying to study. That's when it becomes super annoying. My death ego teach me of how to stop closing myself on one way of thinking. I'm open-minded right now, like speaking English when I'm a French Canadian. Hey, Blue Moon Sky, what's up? You're French Canadian? Montreal? Yeah, see, it's I'm the same way after going through ego death. It humbles you, right? It really humbles you and puts you in your place and keeps you grounded. That's what I found. It was very interesting with how it affected the way that I think, right? Whereas before, I'd always sort of just think one way. Like, this is my belief, this is what's going on, this is what I think, and that's it. Whereas now I'm like, well, what about this? And what about that? And how about this? And it sort of like opens up your mind, right? Like you said, to be more open-minded. And that stuff I love, right? I keep harping on this, but you know, these are things and beliefs that I have that I value in my life. You know, these are very important to me as a human being. And maybe they're more important for me because of the stage that I'm at in my life where, you know, I'm a father, right? So I'm trying to set a good example to my daughter and my son, who are still like little kids. Like my daughter's 2 and my son is only like 3 months, right? So, you know, these type of things are important for Derek to become not just a good human being, you know, a good role model, you know, a good father, a good dad, you know, a good husband, you know, someone that is reliable, right? They know when my kids, you know, need something, they need someone, you know, they can look to me, you know, because I'm disciplined. You know, I will be there for them when they need me, right? Like those type of things are very important for me. And again, this is like, it will depend on where you are in your life, right? Your perspective, you know, your age, your surroundings, your country, like what you're going through, right? It's all these factors, they add up and they're all very, very important, right? And so the reason why I talk about this stuff is it's sort of like to prepare you guys, right? And I know that a lot of these things, they might not resonate with you as well, right? Because you guys are still, you know, worried about girls, worried about school, maybe getting a job, getting good grades, you know, sure. And trying to be like a well thought out, balanced human being. It's probably not on your highest priorities right now. But as you age and as you grow and as you improve, the more you become well-rounded in your life, not just like physically, you know, but mentally, spiritually, right? Becoming a well-rounded, thoughtful human being, the easier you'll go through life in stages and the less anxieties you'll have, right? And you'll be able to overcome fear and sadness and depression, you know, better if you're a more well-rounded human being. And so I think that's sort of like my message to the younger generation when I talk to you guys, right? Because I think it's important, because it's something that I sort of wished I had when I was younger. Like I wish I had these life experiences to learn from someone, right? To even just talk about, like even just talking about like Kevin being at school, or Martin talking to people that are too sensitive, right? And just, you know, not being able to be honest and transparent and have like good conversation. All these things are, they're good to talk about because it opens up your mind to new possibilities, right? That maybe you might not come to if you're just talking with your friends or family. Again, it's like those perspectives, right? Super, super important. What is that? SLMLLE, not smile? Search it up. Whoops. Whoops. Okay, am I back? I think my browser just refreshed. Someone let me know if I'm good. My Google Chrome just like freaked out for a second. You're good, nothing happened? Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, my whole window went dead. I don't know, like my Google Chrome like crashed and like it refreshed or something. Okay, cool. Thanks, Martin. Where was I? Hey, Swen. Yo, Swen. What's going on, Swen? How you doing, dude? How's the channel going? Let me see. Blue Moon Sky. Light is love, darkness is fear. Find balance with those two as growing up into a good teacher. A model equals wisdom. Light is love, darkness is fear. Yeah, like wisdom too is also like experience, right? It's also experience. This is something that I tell people a lot. Like whenever I talk to younger people, I always tell them that because I'm 38 and say you're 28 or 18, that doesn't mean I'm smarter than you. Like we have an equal like level of intelligence and intellectual capacity. It's just I am more experienced than you, right? That is the key difference. Where people are always like, oh, older people are so much smarter, and they know. Well, it's sort of not that. It's like it's experience, right? Life experience. And so I always like, tell younger people, be confident in your ability, right? Especially when you're young, you guys will learn things so fast, and you're like sort of like sponges for information, right? And whereas me, for example, if I were to try to pick up a new topic or instrument or language, and if I were to try to learn it at the same rate as you guys would be infinitely faster than I would be, right? And so it's important to kind of talk about those things, right? Like what Blue Moon Sky is saying, like wisdom, right? Growing up and gaining wisdom, a big part of that is life experience, right? But never sell yourself short either. Because I always had this thing where like, oh, I'm young and dumb and I don't know anything. But you can learn so much faster than the older generation at a rate that I wish I still had that. I remember those days where you could just like pick up a book or you pick up a concept in school and you like learn it like that. Let's see what else. Oh, Batiste, what is your opinion about the concept of bro science? Okay, so normally whenever I see bro science, I always think about like the gym specifically, more like lifting weights, protein supplements, building muscle mass. I think bro science definitely has a place when it comes to some like common sense things. But bro science runs into a problem when they get too specific or scientific, right? Like if you want to talk about like optimal muscle building routines, then you kind of want to follow the science of hypertrophy, right? Through guys like Dr. Mike Isertel or that YouTuber Jeff Nippard. They really break down like the real science, right? To get like optimal results. Whereas like the bro science of like, oh, chest on Monday, right? Back on Tuesday, legs, like that type of stuff. That's when, they fall short. But at the same time, I think bro science is good in a sense where when you take it like too scientific and you just get like that paralysis by analysis, I feel like that's equally as bad. Where some things with bro science, like, oh, you gotta have your protein shake and all this stuff. Whereas, if you hit a workout, have a protein shake, right? Just have a protein shake. Whereas other people, they get stuck in this science, where like, oh, I gotta take it within this specific time window for muscle protein synthesis. I can't say that word, to build properly. And you just waste all this like time and energy just trying to be too precise and too scientific. So with very like simplistic things, I think bro science is actually beneficial, for a lot of things, right? Maybe some people don't want the most optimal workout routine, right? Where you have to train like specific muscle groups 17 times per week with this many sets and this many reps. And maybe just a simple chest Monday, back Tuesday, legs Wednesday will work for you, maybe that will get you in the gym the most. And that's probably more beneficial than trying to like narrow it down to the most scientific workout routine possible, right? So I think, bro science gets a lot of flack, gets a lot of hate, but I think there is a place for it, right? It all depends on situation. Let me see. Swen, it's going fine. Planning to go on a full dopamine detox. Oh, that's interesting. Dopamine detox I've done, I think, only once, when I kind of cut out Netflix, cut out video games, and try to cut out my cell phone use as much as possible. And I deleted all the, like my cell phone, where is it here? Like I used to have like, this thing used to be full of games. Like it was just like full of all types of games. And I would just, and I wasn't someone who always like scrolled through social media. Like, how you have a lot of people who are addicted to TikTok and they're just always like scrolling. And that's like where their addiction to their phone comes into play. Whereas for myself, I was addicted to like video games. It wasn't really scrolling social media. It was like going to the Google Play Store and downloading all these different type of tower defense games and RPGs and card games and just whatever, like wasting my time there. Where, all those things are super stimulating, right? Especially video games. They're so stimulating to the mind, where taking a dopamine detox is very beneficial, for your mindset, for your mental health, and detaching yourself from your device. And you'll realize that you don't need your device to be happy, or at least that's what I got out of it. Like I went up north, saw my parents who live in the middle of nowhere. We went swimming, hiking, canoeing. I helped my dad like cut down some trees. We were like playing outside. Like everything was nice, right? I was outside, had a fresh air every single day. It was great. And my parents, they have Wi-Fi. They have internet. They have like a special satellite on like this wooden pole that we had to install just so they can get internet. But I just left my phone inside. I didn't need it. And I spent, a good week just detoxing from instant gratification. And when I came home back to the city, I felt great. Like my mental health was like, I was in a great place mentally. Like it just gets rid of all of your anxieties and all your bullshit, and it was like something that I really enjoyed. And it's one that I wish I could do more often. The problem for me with doing a dopamine detox is like, you got to get rid of YouTube, right? You got to get rid of like YouTube and watching all the shorts and TikToks and getting addicted to video. Like you got to remove that stuff, right? If you want to do like a proper dopamine detox. But also it's like, I'm trying to be like a content creator, right? I'm like, I need to be on the platform to see what's going on, to upload my stuff. So it's a little bit tricky for me, right? Because like I'm trying to promote like, don't be addicted to social media. But then I'm sort of like contradicting myself because I'm releasing content on social media, which can like fuel the addiction. So it's sort of like in a dilemma for me. It's a very weird situation to be in. And it's a strange one for me to talk about because I have received tremendous benefits when I did take like a 5-month break from everything. Not 5 month, 5-day break from everything, and I felt great. Like I honestly felt great. But also it's like I want to build this business, right? I want to build this community we have. So it's a strange place to be in. What do you think of digital detox and fasting for 7 days straight? Okay, so I think I pretty much summed up the digital detox type of thing. Fasting for 7 days, that's interesting. To be perfectly honest, I don't think I would do the 7-day fast. I'm assuming you're just talking about food fasting, water fasting, where you're just like having water, and you're just eating no food for 7 days. There's definitely benefits to that. However, I think the shorter fasting periods, but more frequent, are way more sustainable, in my opinion, like long term. Where what I mean is, I would start off with the simple 16-8 fast, right? Which is you sleep for 8 hours, so you're not eating anything. You wake up and you go 8 hours without eating any food. So you're essentially fasting for 16 hours. And then the other third of your day, the 8 hours, you eat like lunch and dinner, right? So that's like a typical 16-8 fast. That's what I would normally start off with. But then after that, if you want to go more hardcore with the fasting, going from dinner to dinner is what I would try next, which is basically like 23 hours fasting. So you eat dinner and you fast all the next day until the next dinner. You just go dinner to dinner to dinner. And I think you can gain a large percentage of all the benefits by just doing that. And I think that's way more sustainable, in my opinion, than doing like a 7-day fast. Like, I'm sure there's extra benefits that you would get from a 7-day fast that you can't get from the 23-hour one. But if you're going to do a 7-day fast, you probably have to like plan out your entire week. I'm assuming it's going to be really difficult to go to the gym or exercise, right? Like, what if you have some type of strenuous, like labor type work that will come up on the weekend? Like, it's going to be, it's very complicated, right? The 7-day fast, it's a lot more complicated to do it right. So that's why I'm more of a fan of the time splitting fast, where you can even do like the alternate day fasting. That's another thing that people enjoy, where they'll eat normally one day, the next day they'll go no food, and then go back to eat normally, and they just sort of alternate. You know, that can work too, but I like the one where it's more consistent every single day, where you can do it every day. And that's where it's more, I don't know how to describe it, but I find it a lot easier to adhere to. Like, if I have a very structured setup where I'm just going dinner to dinner for this week, like every week, every day this week, I'm just doing dinner, no lunch, no breakfast, no snacks, then I can plan out my week very easily. Like, it's very simple to do, right? Whereas if you're going to go food, no food, food, no food, food, like you got to like put your workouts probably on the days where you do eat. Then you got to have your rest days on your off days, and you got to like, it gets really complicated, right? And I don't like when things become over convoluted. Like, it needs to be simple, like keep it simple, right? And I think that's what's important. So that's why I stick to, I think right now, I've been doing a lot of like the, I guess you would say, not quite 16-8, more like, what would it be, 18-6, 19-5? It's sort of more like that, where I'll have lunch at like 2, dinner at like 7 or 8, and then fast the rest of the day. I don't know what time split that would be. It may be 18-6. That's sort of like what I've been doing. I'm not really addicted to anything, but sometimes I find myself losing perception of time when I am on YouTube. Yeah, YouTube is really good at recommending videos in your home feed. That algorithm, or whatever you want to call it, it's really well done. Like, in my feed, when I go to my YouTube homepage, I get self-improvement videos, I get workout videos, I get videos about editing, storytelling, StarCraft, the NBA. Like, I get all kinds of stuff, right? And the problem is, based on what I've clicked, YouTube knows all my interests, right? And they show me all the, flashy titles and thumbnails, and it's like, it becomes a problem, right? That's why, if you want to do a dopamine detox properly, right, and you want to do like a digital detox or whatever, removing YouTube or reducing your time spent on YouTube is definitely part of that, right? Because it could suck up a lot of your time. Unless you're someone that's extremely disciplined, where your whole feed is just, I don't know, you don't have any hobbies in there, maybe that could be a thing. But for myself, like the StarCraft videos come up, the NBA videos come up, even like random things like pool. Like I used to play pool a lot. That comes up. Oh yeah, and poker videos. I've been getting a lot of poker videos recently too. So yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough. I hear you, Swen. I have those days too, man. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh shit! Like 45 minutes went by. I've just been watching a whole bunch of stuff. It's tough. Yeah, water. Right now, I'm consistently doing like an 18-6 fast, like I'm used to. I don't understand the idea of eating 3 times a day. I prefer 1 or 2 meals a day, or like 3,000 calories in one sitting. Yeah, it's unfortunately, that's the standard, especially in North America. 3 meals a day plus snacks, and the idea is breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and then you got to have breakfast, and you got to have a snack to keep your energy levels going. You got to have lunch. You gotta have another snack, and you gotta have dinner. Like it's like our society preaches this lifestyle of like just always eating, always consuming food, and like our body is just starting to digest our breakfast, and all of a sudden, bam, you throw lunch right on top of it, and then you throw snacks or cookies or a granola bar, and then you have dinner, and then you're having cake and ice cream, and you know what I mean? Like it just you're constantly making your body work. Whereas, from a common sense point of view, wouldn't it make sense to give your body a break every once in a while, right? Like don't always be digesting food 24/7. Like it's not good for you to do. It's not good for your body to do that. Give it a break. And one of the things I've really been reading about recently was fighting dementia, because unfortunately, on my dad's side of our family, my grandmother had dementia later in life, and it was sort of like really sad, right? She couldn't remember her own kids. And so, that can play a role hereditarily. Is that a word? And so, like, I am cognizant of that. I am aware that maybe dementia could be something that I might face one day. And so I've been like reading, like, how do you stop dementia, or what can you do in your life that can reduce your chances of getting it? And fasting is one of the best things you can do, especially like the longer periods of fasting. And I was reading about this thing called autophagy. I believe that's how you pronounce it, autophagy. I've heard some medical professionals say autophagy, but that sounds weird to me. I feel like autophagy is the proper pronunciation. When your body is going through extreme periods of food deprivation, it doesn't have any like food or carbohydrates or calories to process, or even after that, when it burns through all your liver glycogen, there's no more resources for your body to burn up. There's no more fuel. So what your body does is it goes through your system, and it looks for these like useless plaque-like proteins that are just like floating around, and your body burns them up. Because you have to remember, your body is a very efficient organism. Like if you don't have food coming in, it's going to search for things to burn for fuel. And eventually that's why we all have like belly fat, right? And then belly fat is actually just genius. If you think about where calories are stored on our body, it's in our center of gravity, like by your abdomen. Like you can hold a tremendous amount of weight in your stomach through fat, and you can still be mobile, and you can still move around and live your life. Like imagine if we stored body fat like in our palms of our hands. Like imagine all your belly fat built up here. You wouldn't be able to do anything. But like the body is designed in a way where it stores your body fat in your abdomen, and that is for a purpose. It's so you can still function. And so if you go through periods of food deprivation, there's all these different types of proteins which are precursors to dementia, I believe around the blood-brain barrier, like in your like skull, right? And fasting and going through periods of autophagy, it will burn those up, and you're less likely to develop symptoms of like Alzheimer's and dementia and all these like diseases of the brain. And so this is where I've been going in depth in the scientific fasting research. I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, how do I keep my brain healthy? There's dementia in my family. How do I combat that? How do I lessen the chance of me getting it? Or how do I reduce its effects? right? And fasting right now appears to be one of the best things you can do, right? So, it's not just like, I'm not just talking about weight, right? There's like other reasons why, fasting is good. Also, like being uncomfortable, like going through periods of hunger, learning how to control a ghrelin spike, because that's what it is. Ghrelin is a hormone. When you're hungry, that hormone is released, telling your mind, oh, it's time to eat. So you get that hormone and it makes you feel hungry. But like, you can learn how to fight that. You can learn like, oh, it's 2:00. I mean, that ghrelin spike, if you chug like a giant bottle of water and wait 15 minutes, or drink like a black coffee or tea, that ghrelin spike, it will subside, and that hunger craving, it will go away. And so it's very interesting, especially all the research now coming, especially from people like Andrew Huberman, Rhonda Patrick, what's that other guy who really talks about fasting? David Sinclair, like lots of great information and intellectuals breaking down the benefits for stuff like that. And like I said, it's not a weight thing for me. It's more about like a longevity, vitality. I want to live longer, but also have a good quality of life in those later years. And that's sort of like what I've been nerding out on recently. Hopefully you guys, that didn't bore you. I get into these like tangents about scientific stuff that I've been reading recently, and it just, you can see where the passion comes from, right? I get super tired after eating, especially carbs. Yeah, the carb crash, that's very common. Especially, and you'll really feel it when you eat like a giant bowl of pasta, or you have pizza, like that type of stuff. I feel like it kills me. Like if I have a bunch of pizza like midday, I feel like death after. Like when 4:00 comes around, I'm like, oh, I feel all sluggish and I feel tired and I need like a coffee to wake me up. It's like, it's rough, man. It's it like kills me. And it's hard because like I love to eat pasta, right? It's part of my background, right? It's Italian, right? So eating pasta, it's like a big thing. And it's difficult. It's difficult to get away from like those trigger foods. But I'm sure we all go through it, right? Everyone knows what that feeling is like. You have that big lunch, that big heavy lunch, and then after you're just craving caffeine because you can barely keep your eyes open and make it through the day. Like trust me, I get it. I've been there. It's hard. It's not an easy feeling to overcome. And especially like if you're sitting down in class listening to like a lecture or a professor you don't care about, or working in a cubicle or an office and you're just like pushing papers or sending emails. Oh man, like you just want to go to sleep, right? Do you think fasting can cure cancer? Okay, to be perfectly honest, I haven't read anything or come across anything yet for me to believe that statement is true. Do I believe that there are some benefits that could help prevent cancer? I'd have to be inclined to say yes. But in terms of curing cancer, I don't think there's anything in the literature that I've read which would promote that. I'm sure, like again, this is just like anecdotal, but I'm sure it would help prevent it, maybe reduce your risk or chance of getting it. But like I feel like once you get cancer, like the word cure, like curing it, that becomes a topic far from my spectrum of knowledge. Maybe in the future there'll be some information that supports that, but I feel like cancer is like, it's such a tricky thing that human beings, we've struggled with for years. Like you could ask anyone in the world, right? Everyone knows someone or knows of someone or has a friend or a family member who has had cancer at one point in their life. Like everyone knows someone, right, that's dealt with cancer. It's an unfortunate part of, the world and being a human being. Maybe, I'm hopeful one day we can like find a cure for it. Like that'd be amazing, right? Especially like when kids get cancer, like that's like the toughest, right? Like when like you see little kids like in hospital that have like bone marrow cancer or something, or they have like some type of lymphoma or like cancer of like the blood, right? And like their blood cells, like, man, that type of stuff breaks my heart, right? This makes me sad. But hopefully, as technology and medicine advances, maybe we can reach a day when we do have a cure for cancer. And, that'd be cool. That'd be amazing. But as of right now, fasting just seems like more of like a preventative habit that you could try, I guess you would say. Like, again, there's a lot of things like that are beneficial. Like I always hear blueberries, for example, eating like superfood type things like blueberries are helpful. Again, I don't know if that's correct. I don't know the science behind that. This is like, again, a topic that I read for selfish reasons. Like I'm into the fasting literature for my own like personal gain type of thing, where I'm sort of more into like the longevity type of research. But I guess we'll see in the future. Like guys, like I said, like Andrew Huberman, Rhonda Patrick, David Sinclair, these guys are doing amazing work about like improving health and lifestyle. And also like a big part is like, I'm sure diet plays a huge role, right? Like don't eat processed foods, right? Don't eat shitty foods and sugar and cakes and fried foods. Like I'm sure that plays a massive role in the cancer thing too, right? Smoking, that can't be good, right? Being obese, not exercising. I feel like a lot of the ways to kind of prevent cancer, there's sort of like common sense, right? Eat well, get good sleep, see the sun, exercise, right? Like see your friends, have good conversations, like be happy. Like I feel like a lot of these things as a whole, it promotes health. So yeah, there's another one too, cardiovascular health. That's important too. Like there's so many things that you need to do in order to be like a healthy human being, right? And I feel like the basics, the fundamentals, like that's like the most important, I think. Get good sleep. Don't eat like an asshole. Try to eat well, right? Get some exercise. You don't have to like lift weights or bench press or pick up a barbell. If you like to go for a walk, go for a walk. If you like to play soccer, and play soccer, right? Like just doing anything is better than nothing and living the sedentary lifestyle. And I think that's what's really plaguing society nowadays, is the sedentary lifestyle, where you can wake up, you have food in a fridge that's accessible, you get in your car, you can pick up your coffee in a drive-through, you get to work, and then you sit in your cubicle at a computer all day, and then you sit for lunch, and then you sit in your car on the drive home, and then you sit at home for dinner, and then you sit on your couch and watch Netflix. And all day you're just sitting, you're immobile, you're not moving, you're sedentary. And that's what I think is really killing human beings. That's what we really need to worry about, right? Is not moving, the sedentary lifestyle, eating shitty, fast, accessible food, right? Like, I'll go to McDonald's every once in a while with my wife. Sure, I'll do it. But am I going there every day for lunch? Hell no. Like, there's not a chance. There's no way I would do that. Like, that's crazy, right? It's like very simple, common sense decisions like that. It's like the best thing you can do for your health long term. And I think like the hardest one, or at least for me, that I struggle the most with is sleep. Like I'm pretty disciplined when it comes to eating well, exercising, practicing all these self-improvement habits. But for me, the most difficult is sleep, is just finding the time to shut down, to turn the lights off, go to bed at a decent time, right? That's probably my biggest struggle, is trying to get a good 8 hours sleep. Obviously having kids doesn't help that. That's one of the toughest things for getting a good night's sleep, is raising children. That's like horrible for your sleep. But other than that, like on a regular day, there's so much I want to do in life. There's so many things I want to achieve. My mind is like, it's always racing. I'm always thinking. I'm always like, I want to do more. I want to do this. I have this video to edit. I need to write this story or this newsletter or this book or like whatever that I want to do. That it's important to find time to just power down and shut down your mind and get a good night's sleep. And I think that is something that I really want to work on this coming year. In the new year, is hopefully when my son gets out of this infant stage, he's gonna be 4 months next week, and hopefully as he ages and he will eventually sleep longer, I can get back on track with building a really solid sleep routine, which I think is just fundamental for living a healthy life. And so I think that's going to be my goal in the upcoming year, is to fix my sleeping routine, because right now it's like all out of whack. Right, like I'm waking up at midnight, 3 a.m., 6 a.m., 9 a.m., because he's screaming, he needs a bottle, he needs a new diaper. It's like, man, the toll that plays on your ability to follow a proper sleeping schedule it's tough. It's tough. So yeah, so that's what I think I'm going to be working on in the new year. Should you do some videos with your kids? See, that's a tough one. You know what's rough about the weird thing is YouTube doesn't like videos with children in it. Like I had a video on my channel where I talked about my struggles with being multiracial, or being biracial, for being mixed. And I made a video where I had all these pictures from my childhood, and I was like sort of dropping them in front of my camera and just like telling a story about my childhood. And YouTube flagged it because there's kids being shown in the video, but it's like the kids is like 3-year-old Derek. It's pictures of me, but YouTube flags it and they automatically disable the comment section, and it gets flagged as a video about kids. And so I try not to, from that point forward, I try not to put any footage or make any videos about my kids. Also, it's like, they're not at an age where they can choose or even understand if they want to put themselves out there. So I feel like, as a father, maybe I shouldn't, maybe I shouldn't release pictures of them or videos of them, right? And also like the whole YouTube stuff. So I try not to show them because of that, right? And but I will talk about my family. I will talk about them like during the live stream or maybe during some of these videos. But that's why I try not to have footage of them anymore, because YouTube deems it as a sensitive issue, and also like I feel like it's a little bit weird too, right? Like my kids, they're not of an age where they can consent. Maybe they're gonna grow up and they don't like it that I had baby pictures or videos of them on the internet, right? I gotta also think about like what their future feelings might be, right? Even though like I'm pretty open about sharing all aspects of my life. Like I'm not afraid to speak in the moment during a live stream. Like I said this before, like I can't edit these things out, right, in Adobe Premiere, right? Like this is live. I might mess up, say something wrong, slur my words, lose my train of thought, mess up my sentence, and that's on me, right? But some people aren't comfortable with that. I'm very comfortable with myself. I'm very comfortable with who I am, what I know, and I'm very comfortable with making mistakes and being wrong. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. And I'm comfortable with criticism and feedback from people. I'm not afraid of that type of stuff. I'm sure I'll, how YouTube is. You get haters, you get people who leave stupid comments. But that doesn't bother me. I'm too old for that type of stuff. But again, like my kids, maybe in the future, they don't want to share their lives, right? So that's why I try to be aware of that, right? Is Adobe Premiere Rush free on Windows? I don't know. I don't use that. I use Adobe Premiere Pro, and I use DaVinci Resolve. DaVinci Resolve is great. That's free for Windows. Just get the regular edition, not the Studio edition. And DaVinci Resolve, it can basically do everything that Premiere Pro can do. It's a great software. Yeah, I think that's it. It's 2:00. I'm gonna end this stream shortly, guys. Gonna have some lunch. This was great stream, great conversation. A lot of tricky questions, a lot of controversial stuff that came up, which I really enjoyed, because I'm not shy in sharing my opinion on some of those subjects. But yeah, Kevin, reach out to me when you're available, dude. We'll have a podcast. We can talk about life once you finish up your exams and all that type of stuff. So everyone who made the stream, Kevin, Swen, Martin, who else was here? Blue Moon, Batiste. Oh yeah, my boy Batiste, John. All you guys, thanks for thanks for showing up and making the stream fun for me. I really enjoy these conversations that we have. If you guys weren't here, I'd just be talking to myself and babbling like a fool. I really appreciate it when you guys show up. And I always say this, it's not just about you guys learning from me. And I learn from you guys as well, right? I learn from your perspectives. I learn from where you are in life, what you're dealing with, what you're going through. It really helps me, mold my perspective on the world and mold the content that I'm trying to release and the person that I'm trying to be, right? As I think it's extremely important. So if anyone here is new that missed the live stream portion of this, subscribe to the channel so you'll catch the next stream, which we'll have on November 26th. So we'll do same time. And also like the video if you enjoyed the stream. And I have like a newsletter and all that type of stuff on my website. I have a podcast if you want to follow any of my other future work. And I should have my next video. It's going to be about microdosing psychedelic mushrooms and my experience with that. So look out for that video, which will be later this month. And that's pretty much it. Thanks, guys. Batiste, Kevin, everyone. Take care. Your channel is a peaceful campfire. Hey, I love it. Love the metaphor. I love the metaphor, dude. And have a good weekend, guys.